Dad, why is there $150,000 in Grandma's name wired into your secret account? If you'd told me last Thanksgiving that my entire family would fall apart over pecan pie and a wire transfer, I'd have laughed in your face. I used to believe there were certain things you could always count on, that my parents were good people, that love meant safety, that family secrets were just little things, like who secretly used boxed mashed potatoes at Christmas dinner. Turns out, I was wrong about every single one of those things. My name's Olivia Carter. I'm 31 years old, living in Denver, Colorado, working as a freelance graphic designer. And up until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew who my family was. I thought I understood how the pieces of my life fit together, even if some edges were frayed. I'd hit some rough patches with my business when the pandemic wiped out my biggest client, a hospitality group that made up 60% of my income. But I was getting back on my feet. I thought everything was fine. I thought I could handle it all alone, because the one thing I couldn't handle was letting my family know how bad things really were. Especially my parents, Robert and Susan Carter. They've always been the solid middle-class type. Dad's a high school math teacher. Mom works for an insurance agency, the one that always sends out those corny holiday calendars. They've always lived in the same tidy 2-story house in a quiet Denver suburb. Clipped coupons, shopped sales. Mom bragged about her crock-pot meals. Dad insisted the best vacation was a road trip and a cooler of ham sandwiches. So when I pulled into their driveway last Thanksgiving and saw a brand new BMW parked where Dad's battered Honda used to be, I just stood there blinking, cold wind cutting through my sweater. And it wasn't just the car. I walked into the house and nearly choked on the smell of fresh paint and expensive candles. The kitchen sparkled with brand new marble countertops and gleaming stainless steel appliances. The living room was unrecognizable. Cream leather sofas, a glass coffee table, a 75-inch TV that looked bigger than the wall itself. My parents had always been frugal, borderline cheap. Suddenly, they were living like they'd won the lottery. When I asked Dad about it, he just smiled and said, 0% financing deals. Can't pass those up. But his eyes didn't match his smile. And Mom kept saying things like, we deserve to treat ourselves. Olivia, life's too short to settle for less. But that didn't explain the way she kept glancing over her shoulder, as though waiting for someone to walk in and catch her sitting on those leather sofas. Or how her voice would tremble when Grandma Marilyn's name came up. My grandma, Marilyn Carter, has always been the matriarch. A sharp-eyed woman of 78, who built a real estate empire in Aspen alongside my late grandfather. She's elegant, intimidating, and somehow still the only person who can make me feel like I'm 7 years old again with one look. She's also wealthy enough that local charities fight over who gets to seat her at their fundraiser tables. But despite all that, she's always been my person, the one who taught me how to paint, who bought me my first camera, who told me, live your own life. Olivia, don't waste it trying to earn anyone else's approval. So, as weird as my parents were acting, I chalked it up to the usual tension between them and Grandma Marilyn, until the night she showed up for Thanksgiving dinner and dropped the bomb that changed my entire life. I never imagined my mother would be capable of stealing, or that my father would help her hide it, or that the money they'd stolen was meant for me. And I certainly never imagined that the truth would tear our family apart, leaving me standing in a stranger's kitchen, staring at a man I'd called Dad my whole life, and asking him why the hell there was $150,000 in Grandma's name wired into an account I'd never even heard of. My name's Olivia Carter. I've spent my entire life believing that family meant protection, loyalty, and that no matter how tough things got, we'd all stick together. Growing up in Denver, our lives weren't glamorous, but they were steady. Dad, Robert Carter, was the kind of man who wore the same brown leather jacket for 15 years, even when the lining fell apart. He taught math at East Denver High and believed there was nothing duct tape couldn't fix. Mom, Susan Carter, worked as a customer service rep for Horizon Insurance, the sort of place that gave away calendars with cartoon cows for every month. She'd tell anyone who'd listen that couponing was an Olympic sport, and she was going for the gold. Together, they'd carved out a life that was comfortable, but never flashy. Vacations meant road trips to national parks, picnic lunches and rest stops, and always a giant orange cooler stuffed with ham sandwiches and apple slices. My older brother, Brandon, took a different path. He's 35, living in Chicago, working in investment banking. The kind of job that comes with crisp suits, long hours, and a Scotch habit he tries to pretend is just networking. He's always been distant, like he's got an invisible wall up. He rarely comes home, except for major holidays. And even then, he spends more time scrolling through work emails than talking to the rest of us. My younger sister, Madison, is 26. She's sweet and polite, but there's steel under the surface. She's finishing a master's degree in public policy at Georgetown in D.C. She's the one who tries to keep the peace, smoothing things over whenever tension crackles between Brandon and Mom, which, honestly, is all the time. And then there's Grandma Marilyn, 78 years old, sharp as a knife, with hair always swept into a perfect silver bun and a closet full of classic Chanel suits. She lives in a gorgeous house in Aspen, with high ceilings, giant windows overlooking the Rockies, and the smell of lemon furniture polish and expensive perfume in every room. She's not just wealthy, she's powerful. A woman who once negotiated $1 million property deal over a breakfast meeting, then spent the afternoon baking pies for the church fundraiser. She has always loved me a little extra, I think. She encouraged me to study art when my parents were pushing me toward business. She bought me my first professional camera when I turned 13. She believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. So when I hit a rough patch after the pandemic, I kept it quiet. I'd built a solid freelance career as a graphic designer, working with restaurants, boutique hotels, and small businesses around Denver. I was paying down my student loans, saving for a better apartment, and finally feeling like an adult. But then the hospitality industry collapsed overnight. My biggest client, a hospitality group that made up more than half my income, canceled every contract. Suddenly, I was scrambling to pay rent, juggling credit cards to keep the lights on, and lying to my parents every time they asked how work was going. Because I couldn't handle the lectures, especially from Mom, who'd never approved of me choosing design over something practical, or from Dad, whose silence cut deeper than any words whenever he disapproved. Brandon had his own problems. His firm had taken some big losses, and he'd gone through a messy divorce that left him emotionally and financially drained. Madison was still in school, living on ramen and coffee, trying to finish her degree. The only person I ever considered telling was Grandma Marilyn, but I never quite picked up the phone. And yet, despite all those undercurrents, I believed that Thanksgiving would be like any other year. Grandma would show up precisely on time, wearing pearls and a tweed coat. Brandon would complain about airport delays. Madison would talk about politics until Mom shushed her. Dad would carve the turkey with the same electric knife he's had since the 80s. It'd be awkward, loud, sometimes tense, but familiar. Safe. But last Thanksgiving, nothing was safe anymore. Because when I walked into that house, everything I thought I knew about my family started to crack. And I couldn't have imagined just how deep the lies would go. By the time Thanksgiving dinner was supposed to start, my parents' house felt like a stage set, gleaming and perfect. But underneath, you could practically feel the floorboards vibrating with secrets. Mom kept darting back and forth between the kitchen and the dining room, her hands trembling so much she nearly dropped the gravy boat twice. She decorated the table like it was a photo shoot for a lifestyle magazine. Gold chargers, crystal water goblets, a towering centerpiece of white roses and eucalyptus that smelled so strong it made my eyes water. Dad hovered near the oven, pretending to check the turkey's temperature, but mostly staring into space like a man about to walk the plank. Brandon arrived first, dropping his suitcase at the door with a heavy thud, still wearing a suit jacket and a tie knotted too tight. He barely said hello before heading straight for the liquor cabinet. He poured himself 3 fingers of bourbon and swallowed half in one gulp. I tried to joke, rough flight, but he just grunted and stared into his glass like it might hold all the answers he couldn't say out loud. Madison came next, practically bursting through the door with her phone in her hand, tapping furiously at the screen, mumbling, "Sorry, Olivia, thesis deadline," even though her semester was on break. She kissed me on the cheek without looking up, her thumbs moving a mile a minute. Dad tried to make small talk, tossing out random weather updates and football scores. But every time Grandma Marilyn's name was mentioned, Mom went stiff as a board. It was like the entire house was bracing for an earthquake. And at exactly 5 o'clock, the earthquake arrived. The doorbell chimed, and Dad practically leapt across the room to answer it. Grandma Marilyn swept in, wearing an emerald green tweed jacket and a string of creamy white pearls that glowed against her throat. Her silver hair was pulled back into its usual neat twist, and she smelled like Chanel No. 19 and crisp mountain air. She kissed Dad's cheek politely, gave Mom a cool nod, and then her face softened as she turned to me. "Olivia, sweetheart," she said, pulling me into a hug so tight I could feel the pearls pressing into my collarbone. "You look exhausted. Are you eating enough?" Brandon cleared his throat loudly and muttered, "Let's just get this over with." Grandma's sharp eyes snapped to him. "Brandon, you look thin. Is your firm doing as well as you keep telling your mother?" He froze, bourbon halfway to his lips. "It's fine." "Grandma." She said, sounding like she knew better. Then she turned to Madison. "So, Madison, how's Georgetown treating you? Or are you still postponing your thesis defense?" Madison's eyes widened. "Grandma, I'm just busy." Grandma raised a single eyebrow. "During your semester break," Madison shrank into her chair. Mom jumped in quickly, forcing a smile so tight I thought her face might crack. "Let's all sit down. Dinner's ready." But even as we took our seats, the tension wrapped around us like plastic shrink wrap. We passed dishes around turkey carved in precise slices, creamy mashed potatoes dusted with paprika, Brussels sprouts roasted with bacon. But every fork clinked a little too loudly. Every napkin rustled like thunder. Grandma's gaze swept the sparkling new kitchen. "Lovely countertops." "Susan," she said, her tone smooth as silk. "Marble or quartz?" Mom swallowed hard. "Marble. There was a holiday sale." Grandma's lips curved in a thin smile. "Of course there was." She tilted her head. "And Robert, is that a BMW I saw in the driveway?" Dad coughed into his napkin. "Great lease deal. 0 down. Practically giving them away." Grandma said again. She cut a small bite of turkey and chewed thoughtfully. Then she set her fork down and turned toward me. "Olivia, darling, how's your freelance business coming along? Finding new clients since that hospitality group folded?" I opened my mouth to answer, but Mom cut me off so fast it made my head spin. "Olivia's doing just fine. Mother, she doesn't need to talk about business at the table." Grandma's eyes narrowed. "I wasn't asking you, Susan. I was asking Olivia." Suddenly, it felt like the whole room was holding its breath. I cleared my throat. "It's been rough, but I'm rebuilding. Slowly." Grandma nodded slowly, as if filing that away for later. Mom's hands twisted in her napkin. Dad pretended to be fascinated by the salt shaker, Brandon poured himself another bourbon. Madison stared into her lap. Fingers knotted together. And I knew something terrible was coming. Because this dinner wasn't just a family gathering anymore. It was an interrogation, with secrets hanging in the air like smoke. Grandma Marilyn picked up her wine glass, turned it slowly between her fingers, and glanced around the table like a judge surveying a courtroom. And then, in a voice as calm as the aspen snow, she said, "Olivia, honey, are the $3,000 I send you every month helping you get back on your feet?" The room froze. My fork clattered against my plate, sauce splattering across the linen tablecloth. I stared at Grandma, my mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. "Grandma, what money?" Mom let out a sound between a laugh and a choke. "Mother, don't be ridiculous. Olivia doesn't need." But Grandma cut her off with a look so sharp it could have sliced through the turkey. "Robert, Susan, perhaps you'd both like to explain why, for the past year and a half, I've been wiring $3,000 every month to an account you claimed belonged to Olivia, and yet Olivia seems to know nothing about it." Dad went pale. His shoulders sagged like an old man's. Mom dropped her napkin onto her plate, her voice trembling. "Mother, there's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding," Grandma repeated, her voice dropping several degrees colder. "My bank statements show consistent transfers to an account in both your names. And now, Olivia tells me she's been struggling to pay rent while you've been remodeling your kitchen and leasing luxury cars." The silence that fell over the table was suffocating. Brandon slammed his glass down so hard bourbon sloshed over the rim. "Wait. What?" he shouted. "Grandma's been sending you money for Olivia, and you just kept it." Madison's eyes went wide. "Mom, is that true?" Mom's eyes darted around the table like a trapped animal. "I don't know why everyone's acting like this is some kind of scandal," she snapped. "We've supported this family for years. Your father and I have sacrificed so much. We deserve a little help." My voice shook. "So, you stole from me while I was skipping meals to save money, while I was maxing out credit cards just to keep my business alive." Dad opened his mouth, then shut it again. But Grandma's voice sliced through the chaos. "Is that the only money you've kept from Olivia, Susan? Or should we discuss the trust fund?" My stomach dropped. "What trust fund?" Grandma didn't look away from my mother as she spoke. "I set up trust funds for each of my grandchildren. Enough to pay for college with money left over to give you a start in life. Yours, Olivia, was supposed to transfer into your name when you turned 25. Yet somehow, you've been paying student loans all these years." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" "Grandma, I've been sending $500 every month to a loan account." Grandma's eyes blazed. "That loan was paid off 3 years ago. Your parents have been collecting your payments into an account they control." Brandon's laugh was jagged, like glass shattering. "You've got to be kidding me." "Mom, Dad, what the hell?" Mom's face twisted with anger. "Oh, don't start with me. Brandon, Grandma always favored Olivia. She was always the golden child. Why shouldn't we get something for once?" My throat burned. I was living off ramen noodles. You watched me drowning while you sat there on my money. Madison's voice broke. "Is that why you kept telling me my program at Georgetown was too expensive? That Grandma refused to pay for it?" Grandma's eyes flicked to Madison, sorrow clouding her features. "I sent you $20,000 last year. Madison, for tuition. Your parents told me you'd been in a car accident and needed medical bills covered instead." Madison's breath hitched, tears spilling over her cheeks. "I've never been in a car accident." Brandon shoved his chair back. "Jesus Christ! Let me guess. The down payment for my condo in Chicago. Grandma sent $50,000, and somehow it never arrived." Dad flinched. "Brandon, please." Brandon's voice roared across the table. "You let me work 80-hour weeks and drown in debt because you stole from me." Mom slammed her hand on the table. "We did it for this family. We deserve to have nice things after everything we've been through." Grandma's voice was like ice. "You've been living a lie. Susan, you've built this entire facade on stolen money, and I'm done funding it." Dad buried his face in his hands. "Susan, I told you this was going to blow up." Mom whipped around to glare at him. "Don't you dare put this on me. Robert, you're the one who invested our retirement money in that stupid crypto venture." Dad's voice cracked. "I thought it would fix everything." Brandon pointed at them, shaking. "You've ruined us. All those years, all that stress. And it was all because you couldn't stop spending." Mom sobbed. "We've been drowning. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. We're about to lose the house." I stared at them both, my voice dropping to a whisper. "And you let me believe I was alone. You let me carry that weight, while you remodeled your kitchen and leased a BMW. Madison let out a small broken laugh. "I almost dropped out of school because you said there wasn't enough money." Grandma slowly pushed back her chair, standing tall and regal even in the middle of the wreckage. "I will no longer send a single cent to you, Robert or Susan. From this moment on, any help I provide goes directly to my grandchildren. No intermediaries." Mom shrieked, "Mother, please, we'll lose everything." Grandma's eyes flashed. "Perhaps you should have thought of that before you stole from your own children." Brandon folded his arms, seething. "Unbelievable," Madison whispered. "Everything I thought I knew about this family was a lie, and all I could think was how the people I trusted most in the world had betrayed me, in ways I might never forgive." I pushed away my untouched plate. My appetite was gone. The entire room seemed to tilt around me as the reality crashed down, that my parents had stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars, not just from me, but from all of us, and that the family I thought I belonged to might never exist again. I shoved back my chair and stood so fast it nearly toppled over. The scrape of wood on tile echoed like a gunshot in the silence that swallowed the room. Mom lunged for my arm, eyes wild, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Olivia, wait, don't leave. We can explain." I pulled away so sharply her fingers slipped off my sweater. "Explain what?" "Mom, that you've been stealing from me for years. That you let me drown in debt while you remodeled your goddamn kitchen." Dad looked up, eyes red, voice barely above a whisper. "Liv, we were going to tell you eventually. We just needed time to fix it." I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Fix it? How do you fix stealing almost $200,000 from your own daughter?" Brandon stood up too, his face twisted with rage. "I can't believe you people. Do you know how many hours I've worked? How many nights I've slept at the office, thinking I had no choice because I was broke, while you were hiding money that was supposed to help me buy my place in Chicago." Dad tried to speak, but Brandon cut him off, jabbing a finger toward him. "Don't even start. Dad, all those times you called me irresponsible for carrying debt, and you're the ones who were stealing from Grandma and funneling it into your damn marble countertops." Mom shot back, her voice cracking. "We did it for all of you. For this family. You have no idea what it's like, feeling small, feeling like we're never enough in Grandma's eyes." My voice trembled. "So your solution was to betray all of us, to watch us struggle and keep secrets? That's not family. That's a con." Madison wiped her eyes, trembling. "I almost quit my program because you told me Grandma refused to pay for it. You lied, Mom." Mom pressed her palms to her temples. "I didn't want you three thinking money just falls out of the sky. I wanted you to work for it. Brandon slammed his hand down on the table. Bullshit. You wanted a new kitchen and a new car, and a vacation house in Breckenridge you couldn't afford. Dad choked out. We thought the market would turn around. We thought we'd pay it all back. I rounded on him. With what your teacher's salary, Mom's insurance job, you stole my future. You stole years from me. Mom sobbed so hard she couldn't catch her breath. We didn't mean for it to get so bad. We just kept thinking the next investment would fix it. And then we were in too deep. Madison's voice rose, shaky but furious. I would have helped you if you'd just told the truth. But you lied. Over and over, and you let me feel guilty for costing too much. Dad sat down hard, like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. We've lost everything anyway. The house. The credit cards are maxed out. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. We're about to lose it all. Mom gasped, tears streaming down her face. Don't do this to us. Olivia, we're still your parents. I stared at her. At the woman who'd lectured me my whole life about honesty and responsibility, who'd smiled in my face while siphoning off money meant for me. Brandon stepped in between us, voice shaking with rage. You don't get to play the victims now. You did this to yourselves. Madison whispered. All those years I felt like I wasn't enough, and it was you making me feel that way. Mom sobbed, reaching for me. We were just trying to keep up. Keep our place in the family. We were so tired of feeling like disappointments to Grandma. Grandma's voice rang out sharp and cold. Susan, Robert, stop this! Mom froze, her breath catching in her chest. Grandma stepped forward, her gaze as hard as polished stone. You have spent years pretending to be victims. But the truth is simple. You betrayed your own children. You lied. You stole. And now, you must live with the consequences. Dad stared at the floor, shame radiating off him like heat. Grandma's chin lifted. I will ensure my grandchildren are taken care of, but from this day forward, you receive nothing from me. Mom cried out like she'd been slapped. Mother, please. Grandma didn't even flinch. Enough. Madison grabbed my hand, squeezing it so tight it hurt. Brandon stood at my other side, shoulders squared. And for the first time, it felt like the 3 of us were standing on one side of the battlefield, and our parents were on the other. I swallowed hard, my voice coming out low. I don't even know who you are anymore. Mom sobbed. We're your parents. Olivia. Doesn't that mean anything? My words felt like shards of glass as they slipped out. Parents don't steal from their kids. Parents don't watch their children suffer while they live in luxury. Mom's face crumpled as she broke down completely. Dad covered his face with his hands, shaking his head over and over. And I felt nothing. No pity, no sympathy, just a cold emptiness where love used to live. I picked up my purse, slipping it over my shoulder. Brandon's voice followed me as I walked toward the door. Don't bother calling me until you figure out how to tell the truth. Madison wiped her eyes and whispered, I'll go with you. Live. But I shook my head. I need some space. I paused at the doorway, looking back one last time. Mom was collapsed over the table, sobbing into her arms. Dad sat slumped beside her, staring blankly at the floor. Grandma stood tall, arms crossed over her emerald tweed jacket, eyes glittering with disappointment and resolve. And in that moment, I knew nothing about my life would ever be the same again. I stepped out into the cold Denver night, the door clicking shut behind me, and left my parents and the lies they'd built behind. The Denver night felt like ice in my lungs as I stood on the sidewalk, trying to steady my breathing, staring at the stars pricking the dark sky. My whole body shook as if it finally understood the truth my mind couldn't quite process. My parents, the people who'd taught me right from wrong, had been stealing from me for years. I barely remembered driving back to my apartment that night. The world blurred past my windshield neon lights, the hush of falling snow, Christmas decorations twinkling on porches, mocking me with their promise of cozy family warmth. For 3 days, I didn't answer a single text or call. My phone lit up nonstop, Mom's frantic messages pinging one after another. "We love you. This is a misunderstanding. After everything we've done for you, please talk to us." Each one made me want to throw my phone across the room. On the 4th day, my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't Mom. It was Grandma Marilyn. Her message was short. No guilt, no pressure, just, "When you're ready to talk, I'm here. No rush. I love you." Reading those words made my chest cramp like my heart was finally beating again. I called her that evening. My voice came out small and ragged. "Grandma, can I come see you?" Her reply was instant. "Of course. Darling, I'll have Alice bake your favorite lemon cookies." Walking into Grandma's house in Aspen felt like stepping into another world. Sunlight spilled through tall windows onto polished floors. The smell of lemon polish and vanilla sugar curled through the air. Alice, Grandma's housekeeper of 30 years, hugged me tight and pressed a warm cookie into my palm before I even reached the sunroom. Grandma was waiting there with tea already poured. She didn't waste time on small talk. "I've been doing some investigating," she said, sliding a thick folder across the coffee table. And what came out at dinner was just the beginning. Inside were bank statements, trust documents, wire transfer logs stretching back nearly a decade. It was like reading the autopsy report of my childhood. My parents hadn't just siphoned off my trust fund. They'd emptied Brandon's too, and Madison's, Grandma explained softly. They told me Brandon needed money for a down payment on his condo in Chicago, so I wired $50,000. It never reached him. My throat tightened. They told me Brandon bought his place all on his own. And Madison, Grandma went on, voice hardening. They told me she was hospitalized after a car accident 3 years ago, that she needed help with medical bills. I sent them $20,000. Madison says no such accident ever happened. My head spun. Grandma closed the folder with a quiet snap. Altogether, your parents have taken over $400,000 meant for you and your siblings. I felt like the floor had dropped out beneath me. $400,000! That was my student loans, my rent, my credit card debt, my lost years. I buried my face in my hands. Why, would they do this to us? Grandma sighed, because they were living beyond their means for years. Olivia, your father has been trying to keep up appearances. Your mother cannot stand feeling less than others. They've been funding a lifestyle they could not afford. She reached over and took my hand, her own fingers cool and steady. None of this is your fault. Do you hear me? Tears blurred my vision. I worked 2 jobs through college, ate ramen, shared a tiny apartment with 4 people, and they let me. Grandma's voice dropped to a whisper. I should have looked closer. I trusted them far too long. I wiped my face and forced myself to breathe. What happens now? Grandma straightened her shoulders. Now, I ensure my grandchildren have the life I wanted for them. I've already transferred funds directly into your account, enough to repay your debts, secure your future, and allow you to build your business. No intermediaries. No secrets. I tried to protest, but she held up a hand. This isn't charity, Olivia. This is your birthright. Money that was always yours. I'm simply returning it. When I got back to Denver, everything felt different. I moved into a new apartment, light, spacious, with high ceilings and a wall of windows looking out over the city skyline. I upgraded my battered old laptop to a sleek new machine. I hired a part-time assistant to help manage my growing client load. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waking up in a cold sweat over overdue bills. Brandon called me a week later. His voice was raw but steadier than I'd heard in years. I confronted Dad yesterday. He said he broke down, told me they're in way deeper than even Grandma knows. Second mortgage, maxed credit cards, loans they can't repay. It's all falling apart. I gripped the phone tighter. Are you okay? Brandon let out a humorless laugh. Better than I've been in a long time. I quit my job. I'm opening my own financial consulting firm. I don't want to work 80-hour weeks just to line someone else's pockets. Grandma gave me enough seed money to make it real. Pride flooded my chest. That's amazing, Brandon. Yeah, he said quietly. Feels weird. Being free. Madison came to visit me a few days later. Her eyes rimmed red. I caught Mom in a lie years ago. She confessed, clutching a mug of tea. Remember my 25th birthday? When she said Grandma's gift got lost in the mail, I called Grandma to thank her anyway. She had no idea what I was talking about. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? Madison's shoulders slumped. Because Mom made me promise not to. She said it would break up the family if I made a big deal out of it. And I believed her. You weren't stupid, I said softly. You trusted her. We all did. Madison wiped her nose on her sleeve. I almost dropped out of Georgetown because Mom said Grandma refused to pay for it. I was ready to give up my dream. Over a lie. Not anymore, I said fiercely. No more lies. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed it. A week later, Grandma Marilyn invited the three of us, Brandon, Madison, and me, back to her house in Aspen. This time, there was no turkey, no crystal glasses, no pretending everything was normal. We sat together in her sunroom as golden afternoon light spilled through the windows. Dust motes swirling like tiny stars. Grandma folded her hands on the table and said, I've been thinking a lot about legacy. And not just the financial kind. I'm talking about the kind of family we want to be. From this point forward, Brandon sat back in his chair, arms crossed. Madison hugged a throw pillow to her chest, eyes wary. I just stared at Grandma, waiting. She took a deep breath. I've spent my entire life working to build wealth so my family would never have to struggle. But money, by itself, doesn't keep people honest, or connected, or safe from secrets. Her gaze moved from Brandon to Madison, then to me. So I'm proposing something new. A family council. The four of us. Quarterly meetings. No secrets. We talk about money, about plans, about how we're all doing. If anyone needs help financially, emotionally, anything, we put it on the table. No more letting shame turn into lies. Madison blinked, surprised. Like a family business meeting. Grandma gave a small smile. Exactly. Except our business is taking care of each other the right way. Brandon let out a sharp exhale. That sounds good, actually. A hell of a lot better than pretending everything's fine while our parents rob us blind. Grandma nodded. And one more thing. I've rewritten my estate plan. From now on, every dollar that goes to you three is documented, transparent, and direct. No intermediaries, no hidden accounts. I felt tears prick my eyes. Grandma, you don't have to do all this alone. I'm not alone, she said firmly. I have you, and this is how we make sure none of this ever happens again. A silence settled over us, heavy, but somehow hopeful. Then Grandma leaned forward, her voice low. There's something else I want to discuss. Madison straightened. What is it? Grandma's expression turned almost mischievous. Your parents? Brandon groaned. Grandma? She held up a hand. I'm not saying forgive them. Not yet. But they're in real trouble. The bank is preparing to foreclose. Creditors are calling daily. Your mother has taken a part-time job at Macy's to try to keep a roof over their heads. Your father is working shifts at Home Depot. They're struggling more than you know. Madison swallowed. Are you helping them? Grandma's face grew solemn. I've paid a few months' rent on their new apartment. I won't let them be homeless. But beyond that, they must learn to live within their means. I won't enable them any longer. Brandon's jaw tightened. Good. They've stolen enough from us already. But Grandma's eyes turned soft as she looked at me. Olivia, I know you still love them, even if you don't trust them. And that's okay. Love doesn't mean allowing people to hurt you. I swallowed hard. I don't even know if I want a relationship with them anymore. Grandma reached over and squeezed my hand. You get to decide that, on your own timeline. They have to earn their way back, through truth, through consistency, not words, actions. For a long moment, none of us spoke. The only sound was the faint ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Finally, Madison whispered. I spent my whole life trying to make Mom and Dad proud. What a waste of energy that was. Brandon's mouth twisted into a sad smile. Same. I chose finance because I thought it would make Dad respect me. Turns out, he doesn't even respect himself. I felt something shift inside me, a tiny piece of the grief unclenching its grip. I don't know if I'll ever forgive them, I said quietly. But I'm done letting their choices define me. Grandma's eyes glistened. That's my girl. She raised her teacup. To the Carters reimagined, rebuilt, resilient. Brandon lifted his glass. To us, Madison wiped her eyes and clinked her cup against ours. To the truth. And as we sat there, together, for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed we might actually be okay. Because sometimes family isn't the people who gave you life. It's the people who choose to stand with you when everything falls apart. And that, I realized, was the family I wanted to build from here on out. Standing outside Grandma's house that evening, with the sky fading from gold to deep indigo over the Rockies, I felt the weight of the past year pressing down on me. And, for the first time, lifting off my shoulders at the same time, I thought back to the girl I'd been before that Thanksgiving dinner. The girl who believed family secrets were harmless, who thought love automatically meant trust, who'd have sworn her parents would never, ever betray her. I'm not that girl anymore. And maybe that's a good thing. Because here's what I've learned. Money doesn't destroy families. Secrets do. It's not the dollars in your bank account that blow things apart. It's the lies you tell. The truths you hide because you're too ashamed or too scared to admit you're drowning. I've learned that loving someone doesn't mean letting them lie to you, or steal from you, or drag you under with them while they're trying to keep up appearances. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the people who raised you, because love without honesty isn't love at all. I've learned that shame can turn good people into strangers. That fear of judgment makes people do desperate things. But that doesn't excuse the harm they cause. And I've learned that family isn't just who shares your blood. Family is the people who show up for you, the ones who stand beside you when your entire world collapses, the ones who tell you the truth, even when it's ugly. Family is who helps you build a new life, out of the pieces of the old one. I'm not grateful for what my parents did, but I am grateful for what it taught me, because now I know I'm stronger than I ever imagined. I know I can rebuild, and that I deserve better than scraps of affection from people who've proven they can't be trusted. And I know that no matter how badly someone betrays you, you can still choose who you want to be on the other side of it. So if you're listening to this, and you've discovered a secret that shattered your world. Please remember, it doesn't have to be the end of your story. Sometimes losing what you thought you had is the beginning of finding something real. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever learned a truth that changed everything you thought you knew about your family? And if my story resonated with you, share and subscribe, because no matter how deep the betrayal, there's always a way forward. And sometimes it's the truth that sets you free.